Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for educational purpose only. This is the case of the Idaho quadruples. May the 4 victims rest in peace. Condolence to the families, and may the correct justice be served. Today I'd like to talk about 1122 Kings Road, the house itself. The reason I'd like to talk about this house is because I believe it's the most important part of the case. Let's not forget that the prosecutor, William Thompson, said in the very beginning that the resident, the house was the target. If that was the case, I'd like to know, what did this house have that could have set out the house to be a target? We heard from the chief that it could have been one of the victims that were the targets, but I really believe it was the house. The reason I believe that is the house was a party venue. I'm going to be very mindful because I do not want to upset the grieving parents and families of these 4 beautiful students. May they rest in peace. But I think it's important to look into everything. We can't leave any rock unturned. I know there was a lot of talk about rugs in the beginning of this case. There's so many creators who talk about it. I try to avoid the rug business. But we have to be for real. These are college students. College students are used to partying, drinking, taking pills, allegedly, and many other things. Many of the students had the code, the front code to this house. So it was easy access. We know that Xana Knodel asked her father to fix her locks. We do not know if it was the front door locks or if it was her room door locks. But we know for a fact that many people had the code to the front door. That was even mentioned by Kaylee's older sister, Olivia Gongalves. So today I'd like to look into, I've been researching a bit, or actually I've researched for a while, for the last 2 years actually, about what was going on in Idaho at that time and up to today. And rugs is a big problem in Idaho, Arizona, Texas, California, and many states around there. Could these 4 victims have caught themselves up in a situation to maybe, this is all speculations, maybe to earn a bit money here and there? And did they run into horrible people that could have deleted them? I believe there are many different things that contributed to the quadruples that night. I don't believe it was only one target. I don't believe that there was one motive. I believe that many people were involved, whether it's rug organizations, the frats, allegedly. All of this is alleged.
$1 million will be spent in Idaho to combat the opioid crisis. The funds will be used to purchase additional roadside testing equipment, tripling the state's current ability to get fentanyl off the streets. It'll also be used to start a new media campaign to educate the public on the dangers of fentanyl. Governor Brad Little released a statement saying, meth and fentanyl seizures have dramatically increased in Idaho and across the country. We must act now. Given the magnitude of the problem, we're acting immediately to turn the tide and protect Idaho families.
We all remember senior Colonel Ked Wills of Idaho State. He was in the police conferences when the Idaho-Moscow quadruples happened. And he was running a lot of rug campaigns against illegal substances, rugs, and crime organizations. I do understand that Idaho-Moscow is a small state, so obviously they would need backup research resources from Idaho Police State. But Governor Little of Idaho to the left and Ked Wills were fighting against this rug campaign war. I wonder if this could have had any relations with what could have been possibly happening when the quadruples took place in Idaho-Moscow.
Well, Governor Brad Little is using that motto as the title of a new initiative against illegal drugs. CBS 2's Kristen McPeak joins us live here in studio with details on the initiative.
Yeah, this operation is a collaboration between law enforcement panels and citizen action groups to combat drug use. Governor Little announced his plan today. He's bringing together law enforcement, lawmakers, and cities, counties, tribes, and the public to all be involved. Officials say there's increasing availability of illegal drugs across the state right now due to high supply and low price.
Due to high supply and low prices. What was going on in Idaho? Was there competition of selling rugs, allegedly? We know that when it comes to the rug society or people who are in this society, it usually becomes a competition. People even fight about, kill each other actually, delete each other over taking each other's blocks. Basically taking each other's customers. I wonder if 1122 Kings Road had any involvement with rugs, any kind of crime organization, allegedly. The reason I say that is there was a party house. We even have a cab driver, most of us remember that, who came out to Idaho News, and he clearly said that he should drive students there to buy rugs from 1122 Kings Road. It was a party venue. Is that the reason they demolished the house? Could the frats have been involved, allegedly? We saw the four figures running because they could have been upset with whoever was dealing in that house. The house was maybe taking over their customers. College towns and college cities are known to have a lot of rug society. I want to make this clear that this is for education purpose only. This is specifically my own opinion, nothing less or nothing more. But I'm doing it, I'm talking about my opinion from what was going on in Idaho around the time of the quadruples. Idaho was dealing with rug problems, rug trafficking, in certain states like Texas, Arizona, California, New Mexico, and Idaho. Drugs were being trafficked through those states. Oregon was even mentioned, although it's part of Idaho, if I'm not wrong. So was Kedwills there in Idaho, Moscow, immediately with his detectives, his resources, his force, everything, because this could have been related, possibly, to some kind of drug organization or crime organizations, allegedly.
Officials say there's increasing availability of illegal drugs across the state right now due to high supply and low price.
Fentanyl has come into Idaho faster, is more addictive, and more dangerous than any drug we've ever seen. Methamphetamine and heroin continue to be available and to take lives in our state.
We want Idaho to be the least preferred place in the world for this to happen.
General, it's one-time money. I know it's one-time money. You know Lewis families by participating in Operation Esco Protection. And yeah.
Now here's how it'll work. The citizen action groups will meet across the state over the next few months. They will get perspectives from the public. After the group completes their work, they will provide a report with recommendations on how to move forward. Then law enforcement will come up with action items. Governor Little is seeking $250,000 to carry this plan out. This will first need to be approved through the legislature. We'll have more information about the project and how you can help on our website, idahonews.com.
So Governor Brad Little gave $250,000, that's $250,000, to Colonel Kedwills to fight against the rug problems. Do you remember what Enan Hush said to Lauren on his interview about the black SUV that he saw in Kings Road or around the areas on his way home an hour, 2 hours before the Unalivings? And it's kind of strange. I find it to be very strange that the names that Enan mentioned, the states' names that he believes the car's license plate was from, is where they were fighting the rug problem. Colonel Ked Williams of Idaho and the Governor Brad Little.
That's pretty much all I remember. I never met him after that. I was like, I always thought about crashing the party sometimes, but I never actually did it. I usually got my own thing going on.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, you referred to them in the Reddit AMA as beautiful, joyful. I can't remember the other two adjectives, but
yeah, they seem wonderful. And some of my coworkers actually went to high school with them in Coeur d'Alene, so it's a trip for us. So, and they said they're super cool too. So it's crazy that when you think about these people getting stabbed, it's kind of horrifying because it makes you think that it can happen to anyone. Not just people who are doing some shit. You know what I mean? Just normal people every day. I think that's the really spooky, scary part right now to some people.
Yeah.
Wow, Enan. That was strangely worded. He said it's spooky to know that it could happen to people. He said it could happen to anyone, not only people who are doing shit. Sorry for using that language. Y'all know I'm really mindful. What does he mean by that? So were they up to some BS? Was there rugs? Was there partying? Was it more than partying? What does he mean by that?
Yeah. They seem wonderful. And some of my coworkers actually went to high school with them in Coeur d'Alene, so it's like it's a trip for us. So and they said they're super cool too. So it's crazy that it's like as you think when you think about these people getting stabbed, it's kind of like horrifying because it makes you think that it can happen to anyone. Like not just like people who are doing some shit. You know what I mean? Like just like normal people every day. I think that's the really like spooky, scary part right now to some people.
Yeah. What's your thought about the luxury SUV now, looking back? You probably didn't think too much of it then. Any ideas?
No, not really. It's pretty decked out. I think how like rims and windows. It just looked like a cool car, and that's why I noticed it. But I didn't I just assumed it was like one of the the people's parents. Like a lot of the students here have really rich parents, and they have nice cars. So that's just kind of what it seemed like to me. And I don't know. I saw I think it was kind of like a deserty. It might have been. It was either like Arizona. It might even been Colorado, but I think or like Montana. And I saw one of those cars parked up on the hill of our lot a lot. I'm wondering if it was a white Elantra. I'm thinking back and I can't remember. I don't want to say it was or not, but that was the only other car I noticed that didn't seem like someone that lives there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not that observant, but I'm pretty. I'd say more observant than most people, I guess.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Does anyone know when Lauren did this interview with Inan? Was it before Brian Christopher Koberger was arrested, or was it after? I think she did this interview in December 2022. Quite strange, because if she did it in December, if she did it before Brian Koberger's arrest, then what Inan Harsh is saying here could be the reason that Ann Taylor subpoenaed him. Because he said a white Hyundai Elantra he saw up the hill and an SUV. The SUV, luxury SUV he was talking about, he said was deserty. It had kind of Montana, Arizona, Colorado, California plates. Quite interesting. Those were the places that Idaho was having problems with drug trafficking. But the Hyundai Elantra is interesting. Inan Harsh, is that why you were subpoenaed? I wonder if it was Jack D. is white Hyundai Elantra. He used to drive, I think his family members, white Hyundai Elantra, and he had a white pickup car. White pickup truck.
Parents, and they had nice cars. So that's just kind of what it seemed like to me. And I don't know. I saw I think it was kind of like a deserty. It might have been. It was either Arizona. It might even been Colorado, but I think or Montana. And I saw one of those cars parked up on the hill of our lot a lot. I'm wondering if it was a white Elantra. I'm thinking back and I can't remember. I don't want to say it was or not, but that was the only other car I noticed that didn't seem like someone that lives there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not that observant, but I'm pretty. I'd say more observant than most people, I guess.
Yeah, doing your craft, working on things. Do you ever hear what's going on around the neighborhood ever?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. No, I guess not. I mean, I usually listen to something, so I mean, I'm usually zoned in on whatever I'm doing. But I guess it's kind of on the parties night. The I don't know, the parties are kind of just noise to me, so I hear that, and every once in a while I'll hear somebody return home really late in the night, but I mean it's semi-normal, 3-4 a.m. That's not that late. People go over to people's houses and they hang out for a long time, and then they come home on the weekends. That's just college life, I feel like. And sometimes I'll just listen to some music in my bedroom to kind of tune out anybody who's super late or loud. And then sometimes you'll hear just people walking down, I don't know, sometimes yelling, but not it doesn't happen I don't know, it's not super loud, but it's it's campus, it's noisy, but I mean, it's like, you can hear what's going on, I guess, sort of like was close vicinity, but, yeah, it's usually just noise. Like, there's nothing, like, you want to listen to. I guess it's kind of weird. I guess, like, you can kind of, like, our walls are really thin, so, like, certain places you can hear, like, certain areas outside or inside, whatever, but I don't know. The place I think you can hear in that neighbor's house, I guess, is like, in the house is like the yard. I feel like the yard is the place where you can hear the most things. Like, so if you were going to hear something that happened in that house, it'd probably be the yard. Like, I feel like the sounds inside, I'm guessing, wouldn't carry as much. Just because, like again, I think that yard is sort of like almost an amphitheater set up a little bit. It's like, it's got the hill and it's like down a little bit, and then above it is like the parking lot and another hill. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like a meteor like hole in a sense. And so, like, I think probably like, like in the middle, the sound probably resonates around.
That makes sense. That's what I used to always believe. If there was screaming and loud noises, it would be more easily to hear it from behind the house, in the yard. The front yard, I'm sure you hear if the windows are open, if the front door is wide open. But yes, the front door was left wide open. So are the people living in Queen's apartment and King's Road, are they trying to say they all were sleeping and they didn't hear 4 people fighting for their lives? That is a joke. Because it wasn't like they were deleted off with a poof poof. With a poof poof, sorry. I'm trying everywhere I can not to mention the right word, a gun. If a gun or a silencer wasn't used, and if a knife was used in this crime, this is a horrific quadruples. And if law enforcement is trying to tell us that it was done within 20, 25 minutes or 15 minutes, believe me, somebody would have heard someone screaming and yelling.
Resonates around.
That makes sense. And You Can Call Me Patches is also saying college towns are just noise sometimes. It's hard to tell what's what. A request for clarification. Back to the SUV one more time that you saw. Can you clarify?
I don't think
There's
so.
Confusion in chat. Okay, so you're saying you don't.
I don't know though. She drove a Ford. I don't know. Ford's not that luxury to me. I don't think I would have noticed that. I mean, it's a nice car, but I don't think it didn't stand out to me. I don't know. It just stood out to me because, like, I drive kind of a sketchy car, and it's kind of decked out, and it's like, I don't know. I noticed, like, I've always been into, like, cars with, like, rims and tinted windows and stuff like that, and this was, like, one of those cars I'd be like, man, probably if I was younger and rich, I probably would have bought it, so I think that's why it stood out to me, but, like, yeah, it just, it kind of seemed like, either a baller or, like, somebody's rich parents. That's kind of how I saw it.
Wouldn't be a baller. I don't think LeBron James would have been coming to the house. Was it people in the rug business? Because he's talking about around 1 a.m. at night, 2 a.m. Why would parents be in the houses so late in a college campus when they'll have to drive back home so late? Doesn't make sense. We saw that black SUV passing by Taylor Avenue at 3:01. Could that be the car he was talking about?
Take a look at what the house on King Road, the site of the Idaho 4 murders, looked like in darkness at night when the murders occurred. Where I'm standing is the vantage point that the alleged killer would have had. I'm standing in the parking lot of the apartment building that's directly behind the house on King Road. There's a bunch of police tape here, but I'm still extremely close to where the actual house is. This is where the white Hyundai was spotted. Those are the sliding glass doors that the killer allegedly entered and exited through, and I am a stone's throw from there. And it's slope. Just a little slope right there. And it's just like a slope. Just a little slope right there. It seems pretty easy and pretty feasible that in, I don't know, less than 60 seconds, you can make it from where I am standing to these sliding glass doors right there. I don't know, less than 60 seconds, you can make it from where I am standing to these sliding glass doors right there. Any noise would have been heard, so it's not surprising that a security camera next to Xana's bedroom at another home picked up whimpers, the dog barking, and a thud. You could hear a pin drop out here. Right here is the foundation to Xana's room. You can still actually see, even after all these weeks, the drips and drops of blood right there that had come out from the foundation. And of course, we now know that Xana was found on the floor of her bedroom, so that would make a lot of sense.
So I guess we're supposed to believe that Brian Christopher Koberger, who had no motive, no relations with the 4 victims, we still don't know about the surviving roommates, wasn't scared at all to take the risk of coming into a house that was a party venue that many people had access to, that had lights on the front veranda and the backyard. He boldly came in, parked his car, rushed in, deleted 4 people in the most horrific, brutal ways. Nobody saw him, and he left. Doesn't make sense. What makes sense to me is the 4 figures running. It's the 3 boys in Banfield. That is what makes sense to me. I would love to know where they all came from, the 4 figures, and the Banfield boys and Said. And I want to know where they were heading to. I want to know why they didn't stop for the police. And I want to know why the Banfield boys look so rough with clothes that doesn't even fit them. The Banfield boys. Pay attention to the one on the right, his hand when I zoom it near. Now, explain to me why his hand is so injured. I've heard certain YouTube creators saying that pictures would look like whatever you want it to look like, basically, if you do not have a proper camera and things like that. What people don't understand is these are the original videos from the Banfield. This is under fair use purpose. This is from JLR. The reason I'm using JLR's video is because this is the only video that you see their faces. So when you zoom in, look at his hand. Where has he been? What has happened to his hand is the question. All you have to do is just zoom into his hand. So if all this was debunked by the police and the police said that these boys were not involved, then I really don't understand what kind of investigation they did. The reason I zoomed into his hand last week is I felt it always really weird that there was something not right, because this young man doesn't put his hands down at all. There's only twice, I believe, he puts it down for a second quickly, and then he puts it back again in the cross position. And there's another time that he has to put down his hands for a second because he needs to sign for the penalty he was given, the misdemeanor charges. He has on van shoes, soda side, and then we have the 4 figures running. I've shown you all this picture at least 6 months ago. I got 9 or 10K view on that. The reason I showed you all this picture was I found this picture to be very interesting. This is in front of DM's room, I believe. Maddie's standing there with another girl. I made the picture big, but I remember having got this picture from TikTok in the beginning of this case, but it's strange. I've never seen a man or anyone else in front of the picture. I've only seen these 2 girls in front of the picture. I wonder where the picture of the man standing in front of the girls came from. I'm sure that came from TikTok too. It's kind of strange. But the reason I showed you all these pictures, isn't it strange if Brian Christopher Koberger was coming down the steps and DM opened the room like she said, he would have seen her. Unless he was in some kind of state psychologically, like he was kind of blinded, that he didn't think of checking to the right, which I find it very difficult, because if you are just going into a random house or into a house to unalive 4 people, you would have known exactly how many rooms there in the house and who lives in each and every room. He would have known that there's a spare room that nobody lives there. So it never made sense to me. I've never thought that DM was telling the truth to start with, because the chief himself said that the surviving roommates are not witnesses. He said they were just there. But then he made them witnesses after 7 weeks when the white Hyundai Elantra was found. I think they started with a knife sheet. When they found the knife sheet, just say if the students tried to ping it on Brian Koberger for unaliving the 4 students, all they had to do was put the knife sheet next to Maddie with Brian Koberger's touch DNA. They could have used the white Hyundai Elantra, allegedly like Jack D's Hyundai Elantra, or somebody else's. Then they could have pinned that on him, and so forth. But I still believe that Brian was involved somehow or the other. I believe Brian could have been involved, the 4 figures running could have been involved, the boys in Banfield could have been involved with their injured hands, Saeed with his 2 beer cans. Adam and Jack D could have been involved. Jack D got his alibi. He said he was sleeping. What if he was in the house in 1122 Kings Road, allegedly calling from Maddie's phone to his and Kaylee's phone to his, just to get a timeline, to get an alibi? It is possible. It's not like we've We've not heard of weird things happening in crimes. Clips that I made a year ago, which I believe is really important. This is pay attention to what's happening at the background. You see Jack Showalter, hoodie guy, aka hoodie guy, walking in the Grub truck. You can see him on his phone device. You see the man with this black clothes, black tracksuit. I don't know why I just feel like he's really involved. He could be leading them actually. He could be the leader. Because as soon as he enters, they start texting each other, in my opinion, because you see how their phone devices are flashing, kind of. And you see by the actions that when one texts, the other reads his phone, reads the text message and replies. And pay attention to how they look at each other. Thank you. Truck. Twitch video. He still hasn't come in. He's going to come in now. Pay attention. There he is. Looks at John. They pass each other. Look at the guy. He's going to look at John. And turns away. He takes out his phone with the text. Watch again. John Showalter is clearly waiting for someone. There he comes. He looks at John. He looks at John again. And they start texting each other. Pay attention to how Jack, John Showalter hoodie guy, his phone lights up. He's reading the text. This guy is on his phone too. And what is interesting is the two people in front of them are doing the same. One of them is on their phone. So there are three people actually on their phone devices. They all are texting each other. I don't even understand how they could rule out the Grub truck and Banfield. There's so much going on here. He still hasn't come in. He's going to come in now. Pay attention. There he is. Looks at John. They pass each other. Look at the guy. He's going to look at John. And turns away. He takes out his phone with the text. Watch again. John Showalter is clearly waiting for someone. There he comes. Even the guy in the front is texting. He looks at John. He looks at John again. And they start texting each other. I still can't get over the one on the right, his hand. This was the white pickup car that was seen driving towards the corner club where Maddie Cayley and Jack Showalter was walking down to the Grub truck. I believe it is Jack D's car, Jack D's white pickup truck. It has black linings. Guys, I don't know if this is facts, but this was circulating in the beginning of this case. These two trucks were allegedly parked near Kings Road. looks like the same white truck. If it's Jack D's truck, they may have a problem. Is that why he was ruled out last? I wonder. And since I've been discussing if rugs could have been a motive, in this case, if there was rugs going on in this case, I've shown this before. Sloan Bella, her channel is called Sloan Bella Psychic Reading. I know not everyone is fond of psychics. I'm not very fond of psychics, but Sloan Bella is special for me because I like her reading. She gets to the point. She's not on a long thing. And her readings have been so correct most of the times that it's scary. It's really spooky. She's helped with many missing people's cases, murder cases. She's helped to solve many cases on TV. Sloan Bella wouldn't sit and guess and make up stories. And what she had to say lines up with the rug story. I'll try and leave Sloan Bella's link, if I remember. If I don't, please go and watch the whole video on Sloan Bella's channel. She predicted the downfall of Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, Love, whatever he calls himself. She predicted it in a reading of the late Kim Porter, P. Diddy's baby mama, who died in 2018, which I personally believe, and many people believe, that P. Diddy had something to do with that. And Kim Porter told her that his life is going to change drastically from October 2023. And that's when Cassie came out with the affidavit. And she said his house will be raided in March, around March, winter timings. It did happen. So this is what Sloan had to say. I'm just taking a short part relating to organizations. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Where it could look like a knife or stick somebody like a knife. So I was thinking of that. That tells me it's not just a knife. I feel there was fighting. I also feel the phone call was made. The people were sent out. The cleaner came into the house. The people were sent out. There's somebody scooping up paperwork or looking for information in the house. Now, I don't know how much paperwork anyone keeps in those like fraternity houses or sorority houses or on-campus houses, but I'm feeling like they were looking for something in particular. I also feel like a call was made at about 11 o'clock the night prior on the 12th, and everything was set into motion then. It was set into motion. It's going forward. Now, I feel like this is connected to something so much more than like, I'm pissed off at you, I'm a psychopath, I'm coming to kill 4 random people. That house was being watched. They were being stalked. Everybody in that house was being watched, okay? Everybody, not Madison, not just Kaylee, not, Bethany, not just Dylan, all of them. And there was one other girl in there.
Xana.
All of them. Okay, all of them were being watched. They were being watched from the perspective of, we need to see who's saying what. So we listen. That sounds like some kind of organization or some kind of crime group and or government crime, something. They were being watched. I feel like the 2 girls, Kaylee and Madison, got in the way of an investigation for either a crime trafficking family. I go to Arizona, I go to New Mexico, and I go to California. That's a triangle, that's a triad, a trifecta. trifecta. That's what they keep telling me in my head, a trifecta. So I go to there. What happens in those states? Trafficking, 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 trafficking. I can't stop saying that. Trafficking. That's what happens in those states. Somebody in that house was speaking and was involved with somebody connected to that organization. And then somebody else in that house was talking about what they knew about what this person said, kind of peripherally. So it's like when I say something and there's a whole group of people and I say something and these two people have a secret over here and I'm outing their secret. No one's told me. I just happen upon it. Observation. I happen to say something that makes one turn against the other. One turns against the other. One turns against the other. Okay? One turns. I don't necessarily think that's even really what happened. I think it was sort of a happenstance. And I also feel like it was 3 men involved. It's all threes, threes, okay, all the way along. 3 men. Now, when you're talking about...
Let's remember, there were 3 male unidentified DNAs in the house. One on the Good Vibes picture, we saw the fingerprints of the whole hand. One was the Latin footprint of the Vans shoe in front of Dylan's room. The third was the glove outside. The knife sheet was the evidence, according to them. So it wasn't part of the 3 evidence they mentioned. It was the glove, the van shoes, and the fingerprints. 3 male unidentified DNAs. Isn't that strange?
Something that makes one turn against the other. One turns against the other. One turns against the other. Okay? One turns. I don't necessarily think that's even really what happened. I think it was sort of a happenstance. And I also feel like it was 3 men involved. It's all threes, threes, okay, all the way along. 3 men. Now, when you're talking about the roommates, and it sounds really very strange, and I don't mean this in a horrible way, but one of the roommates presents herself how she isn't. So I present myself like this, but I'm not really like this. So the projection or the energy that I show is cloaked and hidden because I don't want you to know who I am and why I'm at your school. Okay? So that's what I will say.
Is that DM?
I don't want you
or BF?
To understand what I'm really
Allegedly?
doing there because it's not about education for me. That's not what it's about. So I get that very strongly. So there's a mole in the house. Now, the mole can be working for the good side or the bad side, the crime family or the cops, right? Like, I don't know which side, and sometimes the cops can be bad and the crime family can be good because it's all flipped and crazy. And then there's drugs, okay? So there's 3 things. Weaponized human, trafficking, and drugs. But it's not drugs like pharmaceuticals, opioids, fentanyl, heroin. That's not what I'm talking about. Why do people take drugs besides for fun and besides for illness, right? They take drugs, steroid performance enhancing drugs. What if, while all of this shit's going on, we have people being brought into this school setting, this university, we have people being brought in there that are kind of harnessed and drugged in order to perform, in order for sports, in order for money. Because human trafficking is one thing, it goes in different directions. But what if the sports department, and I am getting that, so there is also a connection to that. And that came through the side of Ethan. So I don't know what he was involved in or not involved in, but somebody that he was around and talked to is connected to that element. Now, you can be friends and have a whole bunch of people that you know and hang around and not think that they're involved in anything. Or you could suspect it, but you're still hanging out with them because you're friends. You know, when you're 20, you're 21, you're not thinking that, right? You're not thinking that this person is going to fuck up my life because they're going to tell me something and I'm randomly going to repeat it, which is what happened with Kaylee. That is why she's saying, I'm so sorry. About 11 o'clock the night before they were killed, she is talking in this restaurant bar place setting, and she is speaking about something, and they are like, absolutely the fuck not, you have to shut up. Okay, so they're not telling her that, but in their head, she is talking to somebody